Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Waiting Room, the show that challenges you to thrive, not just survive in every area of your life. This is your host, Ruem, and in this podcast, I'll be talking about the realities of waiting in every season of life. How we wait is more important than the wait itself, so waiting well is what matters. In this episode, I'll be talking about freedom. Y'all, it is 4th of July, and I thought it would be fitting to talk about freedom today. So for my non-American listeners, 4th of July is the American Independence Day. I'm pretty sure you knew that, but I just don't want to assume or anything. So first, let's define what freedom means. There are about 8 definitions that I've found for freedom, but in short, it basically means the power or right to act or speak as one wants without hindrance, restraint, or constraint. Now, I know freedom means different things to different people, and everyone is going to experience freedom on multiple levels in their lives. So you could be living in a free country where you're a free citizen and you have the freedom to live however you want to live, but you might not be free in your home, or you might not be free in your mind. And then you might also be living in a country where there isn't much freedom. It's restrictive and there's oppression, but you might be a free-minded individual. You might be a free person. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. So there's so much to consider when it comes to freedom. And I think this is a topic that could easily take several hours just to go over the different aspects. But I'm not going to make it too long today, hopefully. So first I want to take a look at American history. So in the 1620s, a group of pilgrims who were Puritans or English Protestants immigrated to the West seeking religious freedom from the Church of England, which was a spin-off of the Roman Catholic Church. So they basically said, we want to worship God how we see fit, not how the Catholic Church tells us to. Okay, so they came here, they settled, they grew, they created colonies. Fast forward to 1776. In July, the Continental Congress declared that the 13 American colonies were no longer subject to the monarchy of Britain, which at that time the ruler was King George III, and they were now united, free, and independent states. So that's like the shortest version of American history that you can find. You can do your own reading. There is a lot that you can learn about the history of this nation. So because of a group of people that decided they wanted to be independent, they wanted to exercise their right to act or speak or worship how they wanted, not how they were told to, this nation was born. The irony with freedom is that it is not free. It is going to come at a cost. It's going to cost resources. It's going to cost time, money. It's going to cost lives. And any nation that has ever fought a major war knows all about the costs of freedom. And there's another type of freedom that is also important, and I'd say more important than anything else. And this is a freedom from sin, which is the ultimate freedom. So the Bible tells us that we're all born slaves to sin. So just in our natural state, we are sinners, and only Jesus can set us free. Now, you can take that or leave it. Either way, whatever you choose, you're going to have to live with the consequences of your choice. So you might be walking around living as a free person, but your soul might not be free. You're really not free if you're emotionally codependent on another human being to make you happy. And this is where if you don't have somebody in your life, if you're not in a relationship, you feel like you don't have worth, or you feel like you don't have purpose, or you just don't have direction in your life. Or constantly needing somebody, then that's not freedom. And you're also not free if you need to consume a substance or need to abuse a substance in order to cope with life and in order just to function, or if you're trying to ignore the reality of the life that you're living, hiding behind a substance, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever. And then also it could be if you're spending money that you don't have, trying to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. So if you have that need constantly feeling like you have to look a certain way or be a certain status, and yes, you have the freedom to spend that money, but if you're doing it because of some insecurity, that's really not freedom. If you have neglected your health and now you're struggling or you're living with the consequences of a poor health, and you can barely walk up the stairs or you can barely play with your kids. Now, I do understand genetics does play a part and people get sick and things do happen. So we're not always going to have perfect health, but there are health conditions that we can bring on ourselves because of the life that we live. And that could have been avoided if we had taken better care of ourselves. So those are just a few examples of how we could be living in freedom in the general sense, but we are not really free. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, the Bible says that we are born slaves to sin, and God tells us, we shouldn't be mastered by anything. So if there's anything in your life that's causing you or that you feel like you need because you won't be able to live or survive, whether it's a status, whether it's a substance, whether it's mentality or whatever it is taking over your life, then that's not freedom. And the price of freedom for your soul is not free either. Jesus paid the ultimate price for your freedom and mine, and he died and rose again so we could be set free from the bondage of sin, and we could be living the life that God intends us to live. The Bible says that when you know the truth will set you free. People are in denial. People don't want to know the truth. The truth could slap them in their face, but they will deny it, especially if they feel like their rights are going to be taken away or something like that. But, the truth is actually liberating. There's a lot of freedom that comes in knowing the truth and then living by the truth. So how can you tell you are a free person? Well, first of all, I'd say the most important, have you made it right with your creator? And a lot of times that's a foundation of your freedom. And, that will free your mind and everything else. Another way to know you're living in freedom, you don't live in fear. You're not constantly afraid of what might happen to you because you are trusting in somebody who's bigger than you, who is in more control of your life. You can make your own decisions. So you choose to do right. You have the freedom to also not make bad decisions. So, you're free to do that. If you don't let what others say about you hold you back, or what other people do to you hold you back. So if you are truly free, you're not a victim. Things happen. All of us will experience setbacks in life and will experience betrayals, and either they're going to make us or break us. So we'll either move ahead and learn from that experience and grow, or we will continue to go around in a circle and talk about this one episode that happened in our lives and be stuck on it instead of moving forward and growing. Also, another sign of freedom is changing, being able to learn and grow and become a better person. So many other things that I could mention as far as freedom. Well, I'll just leave it at those for now. I'd love to hear your feedback on this topic and how you have experienced freedom in your life. But just personally for me, I would say my freedom started when I became a born-again Christian, when I got saved, so almost 16 years ago, and I started this new journey where God has just, been changing me, helping me get rid of some of the baggage and the burdens that I had been carrying my life. He took a lot of the depression and then just the anger that I was holding on to and the self-hatred and a lot of other things that had been weighing on my shoulders, and just kind of giving it to him, and then just letting him mold me into the woman he wants me to be. I've grown tremendously in different areas of my life. I've found freedom, my relationships, freedom in my finances, freedom in my mind and my health, and I've learned a lot, but I would say that was sort of like the catalyst. That's what really changed, because if your soul is not free, that's going to affect every other area of your life. And I think that's because that's really the seat of who we are, our emotions, our intellect, our spirit, all of that. So if deep down inside you're not free, everything else is just gonna follow suit. So for this week, I would like to recommend the book The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. With this topic, there are so many books on freedom, and I could go with American history, freedom, or I could just talk about freedom as a Christian or freedom as an individual. And it's kind of hard to pick just one, but this one kept coming to mind. And if you know a little bit about the ten Boom family, they would help the Jews during Nazi Germany, but they were hiding the Jews, and they ended up getting caught and sent to the Nazi death camps or the concentration camps. And so this is a story of how, even though she was in this place of bondage, her and her sister, she was still free, and she was able to touch a lot of, or impact a lot of lives because of the freedom that was given to her. I highly recommend it to read The Hiding Place. The link is in the description, and you won't read it without being moved in some ways. Once again, not a sponsor. This is just a book I highly recommend. So that is it for today's episode, folks. And, I just want to challenge you to live a free life. Get freedom from your sin, get right with your Creator, and that will help you find freedom in other areas of your life. I'd like to thank you for joining me here in the waiting room. Look out for my next episode. In the meantime, please share this podcast with a friend, and also provide feedback. I'm loving the feedback I'm getting from some of you so far, but I know I could be getting more. So don't hesitate to shoot me an email or follow me on Instagram at The Waiting Room. Until then, take care.